An idea is like a virus, resilient, highly contagious, and even the smallest seed of an idea can grow. It can grow to define or destroy you. Kind of like Lou Diamond.
Would you like to learn from those that are taking their lives, their businesses, and their passions to the next level? Best-selling author of Speakeasy and master connector Lou Diamond is here to connect you to some of the most inspiring and amazing people on this planet. Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
When we were kids in the backyard, playing astronauts and rock stars, no one told us to stop it.
Welcome, everyone, to another spectacular, fantabulous, absolutely awesome episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting you to the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. I'm your host, Lou Diamond, and today on Thrive Loud, oh my goodness, am I excited, because we have an author, speaker, and coach who is educating the world about the language of the gods. Listeners, when you hear his story and the lessons he shares, you're going to want to start deploying these learnings immediately. So I'm just going to jump right to it. Thrive Loud listeners, I bring you the author of Sultan's 7 Secrets, Jeff Buehner. Jeff, welcome to Thrive Loud.
Hey, thank you, Lou. Thanks for having me on.
I'm excited to have you here, Jeff. I got a little high level about your story. I checked out what you're about. It'll all be on the show notes for people to see all the stuff behind you, but I want our listeners to hear more from you. So here's what I want to do. I want to do a little rewind. I don't want to go all the way back to the womb. I want to go to the part where you learned about these amazing secrets and what brought this whole message together, and that'll help paint a picture for our listeners. Sound like a good way to kick things off?
Yeah, that sounds great. We've got to go back 30 years. I was a concrete contractor doing what I thought was the right way to live. I was working hard for my money manually, and I thought that was the only honorable way to make money. But I was not happy. I wasn't living the life I wanted, and something had to change.
Okay, so what had to change?
Well, like maybe a lot of people in your audience, most people, not everybody, but most people are living in a state of fear. And that can range from just a little, worry and concern all the way to full-blown panic. And I would say I was in mild panic all the time. It never went away, day or night, even in my dreams. I was in a state of mild panic.
Mild panic. Hold on, I want to jump in here. Mild panic,
yeah.
like nervous, sweats, concern, stress. What kind of panic are we talking about here?
Afraid of what could happen to me, afraid that I would lose what I had, afraid that I would never figure it out and have a better situation. At the time, I was also afraid that my wife was going to leave me because I was working from sun up to sundown. I thought she really appreciated that, appreciated the bills being paid, and she did, but she wanted a better life. She wanted a husband who actually did stuff with her and did stuff with the kids, and I wasn't doing that.
Okay, so you had a life you weren't quite happy with, and something needed to change. Okay, so tell me, how did you make the transition from the work that you were doing to figuring out a new way to make money or the new way to live?
Well, I had no idea what to do, and I could not conceive of my life changing. I was so trapped in being a concrete contractor. I was trying to finish up jobs and get paid so I could pay the bills on 2, 3, 4 jobs back. I mean, I couldn't even afford to quit doing what I was doing. But what happened to me, one day I took on a job for a very elegant, very wealthy couple, and they were warm. There was something about them. They would talk to us and they treated us like we were on their level. And I was telling this lady that she had everything that I wanted out of life, but I had no idea where to get there.
Mhm.
And this conversation actually devolved a little bit. I started being negative. I started telling her that, I worked so hard and life wasn't fair. I wasn't making money, and yet I knew I was working harder than anyone else. And right in the middle of that kind of complaining, she turned around and walked off.
Hmm.
And it was an embarrassing moment for me.
Okay. So she walks off. You're unhappy. All right. So how do we start getting Jeff Buehner happy?
She came back and placed a manuscript in my hands. Now, I have to be honest, somewhere around this time in my life, I was getting so desperate that I began to pray in a way that I had never really prayed before. And I have to give credit, I can't leave that part out. And her giving me the manuscript, I didn't know it in the moment, but it was an answer to my prayers.
Hmm. Okay.
And I wasn't even going to read it, Lou. I didn't think I had time to read it. But that night I read one page. I was fascinated and I stayed up all night long, read the whole thing, and took copious notes.
Okay. Without putting the cart before the horse, but what was the manuscript you were reading?
I couldn't even believe what I was reading. It told the story of the wealthiest man who had ever lived. This is Sultan Musa of Mali, a real man in history. He lived in the 1300s. And to put things in perspective, he was richer then than Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos combined now.
Hmm.
So this guy, and I had never heard of him. I couldn't believe that I had never heard of this guy if this was true, that he was that wealthy. Now, he was not born the son of a sultan. He was actually, his father died when he was quite young, and that plunged him and his mother into unbelievable poverty.
Okay.
The kind that if you're listening right now and you think, well, I'm poor, no, you're not.
Right.
Not like him. He had to steal food to survive every day. His mother couldn't even feed him on a regular basis. Well, he falls in with an older thief who tries to murder him. And he has what we call maybe a near-death experience or an out-of-body experience. And he encounters a man made of light and love. And this being teaches him how the world works, how he works, how creation works. And he uses these principles, these really astonishing principles, to come back. He raises himself out of poverty, becomes very wealthy, but he also raised the whole Mali kingdom out of poverty by teaching these principles.
Okay. So this, I've heard this story and folklore before, but never to this level of detail. And now I want to be able to ask, to go from nothing and having a vision of light sounds like the gods are actually tapping into you. Help the listeners understand a little bit about, okay, what did he learn from the meaning of life and the lessons of life and this language that he now is able to tap into? How did that transform his financial well-being?
All right. The first thing he learned when he died is that you have two bodies. You have a spirit body, which is the one with the life force in it. That's the real you. You also have a physical body. So what happens at death is the spirit body pops out, and there's your physical body. It's worth nothing. Can't feel anything, can't move. The spirit body has the life. He also learned that that spirit body is a literal child of God,
Okay.
and that it's immortal. It never dies. He also learned that he has two minds working simultaneously, a conscious mind, which you think of as you, and a subconscious mind, or what he called the veiled mind, but it is the mechanism that controls your life. And
Okay.
whatever it believes to be true about you is the way it's going to be, period. You can't stop it.
Okay. So, and I love this. We'll call this the spiritual, the soul and your physical body. And
Yes.
needless to say, your mind has two different ways that it can go, consciously, subconsciously, but obviously the subconscious is the one driving the direction. So is this philosophy or the way that the Sultan is has recommended to live the life or tell the story is to kind of just let that subconscious mind kind of take the direction of where you should lead your life?
Well, that's what it's doing now, but no.
Okay.
His thing was he was taught how to seize control of this mechanism and tell it exactly what to believe, which you have the right to do and the ability to do. But few people are doing it. So they feel like life is happening to them and they can't really change anything, or, they don't know how to change life. But here's the other thing he was taught: we're all just playing roles.
Hmm.
People have kind of helped us take on the role that we are dedicated to, but that's all we're doing. There is no you. You is an invented role, and you have the power to change your role anytime you want to.
So I'm going to jump in here quick before we get to something, because this is important, obviously. So here you were at a certain point in your life where you were certainly not following that path where you can choose what you wanted to do. You were literally grinding it out for working in the industry that you were in. So obviously this book was an awakening to you. I would love to learn, how did you now start to apply these lessons into your own life? What steps did you make to try to say, hey, okay, there's another way to do things that have led to incredible fortune or a better way of life? How did you transform the story that you're reading, this manuscript, into actual concrete, pun intended, things that you can do to change the way you're doing things?
Okay, so there's a formula in this book and something called the language of the gods. And it said in the book, when you speak this language, the world obeys your commands. Now, it has nothing to do with the words that come out of your mouth and nothing to do with the thoughts you're thinking. It's the language that your conscious mind speaks to your subconscious mind, and your subconscious mind always believes this language.
Okay.
And then keeps your life congruent with what it believes. But you're the one who told it what to believe. And you're still telling it right now in this language. So I've got to jump back to something. Sultan Musa of Mali is also the author of the fairy tale Aladdin and the Magic Lamp.
Okay.
And he wrote this fairy tale as a metaphor for his own life, and he used it to teach these principles. And he did it literally to save his own life, to preserve his life. He embedded the principles in the fairy tale. And if anyone started to call him on these, and you'll see why in a minute, he would just say, hey, chill out. It's just a story. I'm just sharing my life experiences in a story. But look, even back then, and maybe today, you didn't come out and just say, hey, yesterday I died and I met God, and then I came back to life and he taught me all these things that our scholars know nothing about. That's a quick way to get yourself killed, and he knew it.
So he, by the way, fascinating and impressive, and he's got a language and a method. Help me connect the dots here. And I do believe, by the way, that it's almost like we're trying to tap into the spirit of who we are. And there's many different beliefs or systems and energies and ways that people have tried to communicate. And they've been guests on this show that talk about more of a higher power of running things. And this power obviously seems to be within and is communicating, as you said, the language of the gods. So I often see these overlaps in trying to pull this together. But this has led obviously into one person's incredible fortune and obviously recommendations of a new way to live. So
Yeah.
in getting all of these different message and learnings, I'm trying to connect on how personally it's affected you.
Well, let me just give you an idea of what happened to me once I learned how and started speaking this language of the gods. And I'm going to teach your audience how to do it today. I went from being a $60,000 a year concrete guy to within 8 months making hundreds of thousands of dollars a month in a new business that just came to me from out there, fell into my lap, totally fit my personality. I was good at it. It was right down my alley. And a lot of other things changed. So the reason I tell you this, certainly not to brag, but to show that this is no joke. This is how you transform your life. And by the way, I'll say one other thing. I started to have so much money come at me and opportunity and all kinds of crazy things that I had to use the same 7 principles to slow things down a little bit. That's how real this is.
Okay. I'm on bated breath here. Okay, let's take a piece of it. We don't have to give the whole answer away because we're going to eventually give the book to everybody else. But Jeff,
right.
Let's start speaking the language of the gods.
Okay. Sultan Musa of Mali writes this metaphor, but he writes a second parchment that has a detailed tutorial on how to speak this language and all of the teachings of the man made of light. And this 300 years later gets handed to a man named Antoine Galland, who you may have heard of. He's often credited as the author of Aladdin and the Magic Lamp.
Right.
But he was honest about, he didn't write it. He got it from Sultan Musa of Mali on 2 parchments. But he only published the fairy tale. He was terrified of that second parchment because it talked about God, near-death experience, 2 bodies, 2 minds. He thought, I'm going to lose everything if I publish this. But he himself went on to experience unbelievable success and fame and fortune. So I'm going to go through 3 or 4 of the elements in the fairy tale and tell you what they mean.
Great.
So you start out with Aladdin. Aladdin represents you, the conscious mind, or that part of you that you think of as you. Then you have this all-powerful genie who can get you anything you want. This is your veiled mind or your subconscious mind. It will do anything you command it, but you have to command it in a specific language. Here comes the magic lamp. The magic lamp is what changes everything for Aladdin. And it represents knowledge of how the conscious mind can command the subconscious mind, that, by the way, is connected to all knowledge, all wisdom, all power. It's literally connected to God.
Okay.
But it won't share any of that with you unless it believes it's supporting the role you're dedicated to playing.
Okay.
But you have the ability and the right to change your role anytime you want to, anything you can dream up and dedicate yourself to. And the way you do it is you tell your subconscious mind in the language of the gods what you want out of life. And it always obeys this language. So it has nothing to do with the words coming out of your mouth or the thoughts you're thinking. So what is it? It's the language of feelings. This is the language that's always taking place between the conscious and subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is always asking, what is wanted? What do you want? And you're always answering in the language of feelings. So let me ask you, how are you feeling about your finances? How do you feel about your main relationship or your health or your level of energy? Because however you feel, when you ask yourself, hey, let's take a look at my finances. What are my finances like? You're going to immediately feel something.
Okay.
And whatever you feel, good or bad, that's what your subconscious mind believes about that aspect of your life.
Okay. So
And that's the way it's going to be.
okay. So I want to play a little devil's advocate. This is where most people are going. By the way,
Shoot.
all those other things you had sent, how I feel physically, how I feel my energy wise, these are things I'm always on high top performance. We're always looking at our finances in different ways, and we go through different peaks. Now, if we want that number to be higher, like that saying is basically our feelings would be that we don't have enough of it or we want more.
Right.
So is that triggering the energy to be working harder, or is it, we don't want to play dumb, but if your balance sheet is you're spending more than you're making, do you need to kid yourself to try to flip things around? Because I'm going back to when you were in that situation where you were barely making ends meet to flipping from 60,000 a year to making 100,000 a month. What was the language and the belief, the language of feelings that you were able to feel how you were feeling? Because I see you could see the vision. I'm trying to connect that dot here. I'm trying to do it.
Yeah, here we go. So obviously, if you want to change the way you feel about an aspect of life that isn't very good, you can't do that by focusing on reality, because you're just going to feel the way reality makes you feel.
Okay.
So here comes something called your superpower. This is your ability to change the way you feel about anything, regardless of what's going on in your physical realm. In fact, in defiance of it. And this is your ability to imagine and pretend. And this is how you've learned almost everything you've learned in life. This is where your power is. And by the way, you were an absolute pro at it as a little child.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That, like, it's the kindergarten mind. Like, you can be creative and imagine whatever you want to be, and then you can set your goal to go do it. But life will set us those limits because other things are telling you you're not. But if you're listening to that language of feelings or language of the gods and embrace that dream, is what you're saying, that you can step into that dream and make it happen. Is that what I'm catching on?
Yes, absolutely. Lou, you are fit and trim because you see yourself on a very core subconscious level as fit and trim. That's who you are, and you believe it on that level. So you don't allow yourself to eat 4 boxes of donuts in one sitting. It's just not who you are. You see yourself as someone who will happily forego the cake and eat your 4 eggs and be happy, and then go to the gym or go for a bike ride. How you see yourself is how it's going to be.
I'm raising my
hand. Go ahead. I know you got a question here.
No, I'm raising my hand because I want to give a good. I'm loving this, by the way, and thanks, Jeff. This is amazing stuff here. Here's, you saw the movie The Matrix, right, or the whole series of the Matrix?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah, love it.
So remember that the way you saw yourself in the Matrix, the way Neo saw himself in the beginning when he wasn't quite ready to believe, he looked a little timid, a little shy, a little hesitant. He still looked very human. By the end of the 3rd movie in the Matrix, he is the most badass looking, literally like a superhero in a cape and black in dark glasses and ready to kick ass at all times.
Yeah.
I'm not too far off on this, am I not? Right? This is the idea. Like,
You're
we
right
basically embrace that, let go of the things that are holding us back and pick the dream and go after it and own that that's what we want to be, and own that's who we can be. And that's tapping into that superpower. I'm guessing.
I'm going to give you an example because you're dead on, and it's so much simpler than people think when they first hear about this. So let's say you're not happy with your finances, and you know that every morning you wake up feeling the same things and thinking the same thoughts about your finances, and that keeps your subconscious mind is going to keep your life congruent with your predominant feelings. But now you learn this and you think, okay, I'm going to change how I feel about my finances. But how? I've still got the same bank balance, the same stack of bills. How do I do it? All right. Let's say that you take a minute and you just imagine, you ask the question, what would it feel like to have $300,000 under the mattress or hidden in the house or out in the backyard in a coffee can? How would that feel? Instantly, your subconscious mind, who knows how that feels, is going to tell it to you in the language of feelings. And you're going to feel a portion of the feelings that you will feel when you actually do have 300 grand hidden in the house. So now you feel what it's like to have 300 grand, and that feels good. Or a million or 3 million, whatever number you come up with. Now, here's the weird part. Your subconscious mind that stores all of your memories, it's connected to all wisdom. It speaks to you in feelings. You speak to it in feelings. It's the one who gives you the feelings when you ask the question, what would that feel like to have 300 grand? But let's say you imagine and pretend with a certain amount of intensity and consistency to have 300 grand every day, and you flood your subconscious mind with those feelings, or you just flood yourself with them. Your subconscious mind, who gave you the feelings, now hears these feelings, that's the language it speaks, and it believes them. It now starts to, as soon as it really believes, you've flooded it enough, it will go out and orchestrate new situations and circumstances in your life that match these new predominant feelings. Now, this is not identify what you want and then go to work hard and maybe it'll work out. Maybe you'll get it. This has an element of magic to it. And that's what happened to me.
Yeah.
Once you flood your subconscious mind, it already knows the $1 million idea. It's just not sharing it with you until you dial into the right feelings. Then it will instantly. It already knows the next business partner you should have that you two would really succeed. It already knows the perfect sweetheart. She's out there somewhere. It all is. And all you got to do is generate and flood your subconscious mind with feelings that match the life you want. And then it will start bossing you around in the language of feelings. It will send you feelings like, hey, you ought to call this guy, or you ought to watch this video, or you will start looking for different things and seeing different things. And it's orchestrating that. And the next thing you know, something happens that matches the feelings you're generating on purpose with your imagination.
Using another language, I'm using that word intentionally with this. This is truly believing. I believe, like we all have the power within ourselves to do certain things. And there's all this, we tap into these magic genie powers when we need to in the worst case scenarios. Tapping into the belief of doing something extreme, showing physical strength that you can't even imagine that you did because of a adrenaline-like activity. Like there's all these incredible superpowers that you're right, that life and others will beat us down and hide the kindergarten version of ourselves. But at the heart of what you're saying, which I appreciate, and I actually, I'm using the word very intentionally, believe. I believe it because I think that the dreamers are not the ones who just dream and they snap and they come true. The dreamers create the opportunities. They create their own luck. They create their own belief. And you're right. If you're swilling in the negativity or not tapping into those superpowers, you're not speaking the language of the gods. So I get this, and it's totally on par with where things are. I want to ask this question, be specific. What was the multi-$100,000 idea that came out from your, that transition, that first thing that got you? What was the business and the idea that you created?
When I redesigned my life, I sat down and just decided I'm going to have X number of dollars in the bank. I'm going to have a different career. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. My only thing was, whatever my new business is, it's not going to have anything to do with concrete or vending. I'd been in those two before. I'd placed a whole bunch of vending machines out there and serviced them every Saturday. Well, it turns out that, again, your subconscious mind knows the best thing for you. You just have to tune into it. And the new business was in vending, but as a wholesale supplier, not putting out machines. And made a fortune doing that.
That's amazing. Jeff, I want to ask you a question that I think most of the listeners are doing. And I think this is a great segue as to you as an author and as a thought leader and trying to get people to tap in. And we'll give the plug section right afterwards on where they can get the book for you. Why can't everybody, or why isn't everybody speaking the language of the gods?
You are. You're speaking the language of the gods' feelings right now. You're flooding your subconscious mind with feelings about every aspect of your life. It believes them. It never doubts your feelings, and it will keep your life congruent with the way you're feeling. Every successful person is feeling, they see themselves a certain way. They're dedicated to that. That's who they're going to be. They feel it on a deep level, a core level, and that's the way it is. Things will come to them that don't come to somebody else. Doors will open that don't open for someone else. But because they haven't codified what they're doing, they're kind of doing it on an instinctive level. You can have people who are wildly successful in one aspect of life and miserable failures in another. But once you understand how this works, you can be a success in any aspect that's important to you.
I am dying to ask this question because this is going to be fascinating, because I want to see where Jeff Bezos takes this. I ask every guest on this program, what we're trying to do here on Thrive Loud is feature those that are thriving in their lives, their businesses, and their passions. And I'm trying to decode what makes people thrive. And one of the ways that we figure that out is by understanding what they do when they're a little off their game. I love to say, you've been killing it in the businesses you've chosen, the book you've put together, this incredible message you're sharing with people, which means on most days you are thriving. But on the days when you're not, Jeff Bezos, what practices do you seek, or what individual do you seek out to get yourself back on the thriving track, or maybe more notably, get yourself in tune to speak the language of the gods?
What a great question. Look, this all goes back to the man made of light. Now, before I read any of this, before I got into it, I was like a lot of people. I'd kind of been like, I'd looked at churches and people in the church and sort of came to the conclusion that I kind of don't like this religion crap, Soon as I read this manuscript, everything changed. I mean, I realized that, for example, take the concept of faith. You are mistaught about faith. So you never understand it. You never use it. You're told if you have faith, you can create miracles. But then you don't know if you have faith or have enough faith, and you only need as much as a mustard seed. Well, how much is that? Okay, once you read the manuscript, faith is something you either do or don't do. And if you do it, you create miracles. And the mustard seed has not one thing to do with an amount of faith. The mustard seed is the equivalent of doing faith by choosing what scenarios you entertain in your mind because of how they make you feel. And those feelings are like the mustard seed in that they're both seeds, and they're getting planted deep into your subconscious mind, and they will grow into whatever the seed is. So, a pine seed, a pine nut doesn't turn into an apple tree. It turns into a pine tree. Whatever feelings you generate by the scenarios you choose to entertain in your mind, that's what you're going to get, because your subconscious mind believes your feelings and will create a life to match. That's as simple as this is. So
And that's
I
what you, is
turn
that
to
what
the
you do
man
every
made of
day?
light.
Yeah, you do. You turn to him.
Well, for one thing, clear back then, I realized I'm not just a mistake. I'm not just a cancer on the planet, like you're told. I'm a child of God.
Yeah.
I'm a son of God. And it changes everything because now I read the scriptures not as kind of a checklist of are you a good or bad person. I don't care about that. I know I've got value just intrinsically.
Hmm.
Now I'm reading the how-to manual from the one person who knows, the one person who loves me more than anything and loves everybody, by the way. And now when I come across things like ask, believing ye have received. Well, what does that mean? Believing is like faith. It's something you either do or don't do. And the only place you can do it is in your imagination by what you choose to see, how you choose to see the world, the scenarios that you entertain. So it's not about, how do I believe? Do I not believe? How do I know? No, it's do belief by generating the scenarios and feelings that match the life you want, the way you want it to be.
Yeah.
And now scriptures that made no sense to me before do, like, according to your faith, shall it be done to you?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know that faith equals the way you choose to see it. So the way you choose to see it is the way it's going to be because you're generating feelings that your subconscious mind believes, and it goes and creates and orchestrates the life that matches. It's that simple.
Let's do the admin part of the show here, Jeff. Let's share with the listeners all the places they can grab a copy of the book, where they can learn about you, hear the other messages and the great things you're doing. We will put it in the show notes, but it gets more engagement when they hear it from you.
Great. I'm trying to give away the book. We call it almost free. I think it costs $2. We're trying to keep the website up and maintain its own, basically, so I don't lose too much money giving the book away for free. But you can download the book by going to sultan7secrets.com, and you could be speaking the language of the gods tonight and all day tomorrow and the next day. And when you speak this language, the world obeys your commands. Seize control of the way you feel by seizing control of your make-believe world, your dream world, and you've seized control of your life.
I love it. All righty. I'm in. I'm totally there. I've already.
Thanks, Lou.
No, I'm in. Mostly because I think what's really interesting, and you said something that was really interesting. I've been so focused a lot of the time on a lot of other things, and those have all happened for the success of this program, the success of the speaking business. I'm helping my clients succeed in certain ways, and I think you're right. I think that childlike version of ourselves, who's basically a child of the gods or the man of light or whatever it might be.
Yep.
I think these lessons are important. One, because I think it's important that when we focus on them, we're helping achieve all the goals that we wanted to do. And it inspires others to do the same. And I think that's what's great about what you're doing here. And trust me, I was joking because I'm like, man, I really got to start believing that I'm going to win that really big lottery, because who knows what will end up happening. It'll make me buy a ticket, and you never know. But anyway, if that ends up happening, I'm buying every copy of Sultan 7 Secrets, and we're going out to dinner. So let's do this. Perfect. I want to go down Fun Street with you, Jeff, because we've been having fun from the very beginning. We love to get a little bit, pull the curtain back and understand a little bit more about who Jeff Buehner is. Jeff, do you have an all-time favorite movie that you love to watch, or one you love to rewatch every now and then?
Oh, yeah, I do, but not for the reason people are going to think. Like Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark is my favorite.
It's a great movie.
But because I see myself as a treasure hunter, I'm looking for a new cool thing, new cool person, new opportunity every day. And so I really relate to that movie as, just the adventure of life, the best treasure hunt ever invented.
Yeah.
So that's my favorite movie.
It's funny, out of the whole original series, I know there was a fourth movie years later. but the first and the third, the one with Sean Connery, was one of
right.
Was just spectacular. The Temple of Doom one was neither here nor there. I mean, a little bit creepy. It was a little bit.
That missed the mark a little bit.
Hey, but if it would make it clear, if it wasn't for the Temple of Doom, Spielberg never gets to meet his wife and Kate Capshaw,
right.
and then there's a whole other things that we have never get the chance. So everything happens for a reason. All right, so we're gonna do the speed round here, Jeff. I think you're gonna do great on this, and I've got an extra bonus question just for you. So here's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna ask you something. I want the first thing that comes to your mind. These are things that lift you up, motivate you, make you feel good, basically make you thrive. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. Of late, a song that you love to listen to, or maybe one that pumps you up.
Don't give up on your daydream, or don't quit your daydream.
Who sings
this
that?
girl has a beautiful voice. God, I can't remember her. I should know her name.
I'm going to look it up. We'll get our team on.
Yeah. Beautiful girl, beautiful, but an unbelievable message in that song. Don't quit your daydream.
I like it. A favorite food of yours that is not a dessert.
Steak.
Favorite dessert.
Tiramisu.
An activity you wish you did more of.
I pretty much do everything I want to do these days. Maybe row my boat on the Blue Lagoon in Belize more often.
Oh, there you go. An activity you wish you did less of.
Oh, man. Again, I sound like a spoiled brat, but that's the way I want it to be. I pretty much delegate anything I don't want to do these days.
I like it. An activity you recently tried that you want to recommend to everybody you see. Other than the Sultan 7 Secrets, obviously.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm taking up motorcycle riding again in my older age, but I'm being careful.
Okay, good. If I could snap my fingers and Jeff Buehner could be anywhere in the world, where is he?
Two places, right here in St. George and on my farm in Belize.
Oh, awesome.
Those are the two places I love.
To take us out of here, Jeff, and helping people achieve that language of the gods, because, we do have a lot of clutter, a lot of things that might get in your way, and trying to make that communication to, your subconscious be difficult to do, that language that connects the most. Aside from reading your book, what's a good first step that people can do so that they get in the habit of speaking the language of the gods?
Come up with one really good daydream, one really good scenario that makes you feel great. And you can do that by saying, if I had a magic wand in my right hand and I pointed at anything I want and can change it instantly, what would I change it to? And then get lost in that dream, go deep in that, experience what it would actually be like to experience that thing you want, and learn to do that, not just every day, but all day long.
Love it.
It'll change your life.
Jeff Buehner, the author of Sultan 7 Secrets. Truly a pleasure to have you on Thrive Loud. I'm going to start shouting from the rooftop the language of the gods. I'm in, as I said earlier in this interview. Great to have you on.
You're already shouting pretty hard, man, so I'm proud of you. Keep it up.
You got it, my friend. To all the listeners out there, thank you for joining us. And until next time, keep moving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
If it makes you nervous, it's probably worth it. Or save it for sleep when you could be living your daydream. Why save it for sleep when you should be living your daydream?
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Check us out on the web at thriveloud.com and follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook at Thrive Loud. And check us out on the Good Pods app at Thrive Loud, where you can follow, listen, and connect directly to Lou and all of the Thrive Loud episodes. Thanks for listening.